Hey everyone, welcome back to Stu's Place Down Under, and today I think I'm going to do a tour of all the tractors we got here, all the farm tractors anyway. So I've still got COVID, and it's Sunday afternoon here. We're just doing a bit of work with the HD14 Alice Chalmers here. If you can get a good view of that, we're going to do a bit of work with it. So had a couple of problems, so we brought it up. It's the first time it's been in the workshop actually. We generally work on it out of the car, so out of the ute I got there. But I went over and to the house about 3 o'clock, and I started watching YouTube, sit there with a cool drink. I was watching Pete Mate. He's another YouTube here in Australia. He's a lot further north than I am. He's up in Cairns and I'm down here in Sydney. But I was watching him doing a tour of his yard, and I thought, you know what, that's not a bad idea. I might, rather than sit on the lounge, I think the family's all got COVID too, so they're all just watching iPads and bits and pieces, and they weren't paying me any attention, so I thought I'll come out here and might do a walk around of all the farm tractors. So I think there's about 37 here. A couple aren't mine. I won't say which ones are and which ones are, but I'll just do a tour and I'll tell you all the history and possibly where we got them. There's too many to remember, but just going to be a talking and walking episode. So we'll start up this end and we'll end up down the back, so to tell you what I can about them all. When I say tractors, I'll include these two as well because, well, they're in the area I'm in now, so there's also a few bikes I've got. I'm not a big bike bloke, but actually the bloke next door, when I bought the Oliver and those Inters the other day, said there's a few bikes down there that may interest me, and he's going to talk to his mate about those. They're only old jappers like these, 250s and stuff, but I'm interested in any old thing with an engine. I'll gladly give, if they're cheap enough, I'll gladly get them. I've got plenty of room here. So the first tractor it's a John Deere 345. Now I got this one from my father-in-law. I had another John Deere Sabre, I think it was. Just a smaller thing, like a more of a yard machine. This isn't actually a tractor. It's got hydraulic lift and everything, so you could get grader blades and all sorts of things under these. So that is actually a mini tractor, not just a lawnmower. Twin Yamaha, Kawasaki, sorry, liquid cooled, radiator in the top. That one's got a misfire actually, and the battery's dead, but I had to bypass one of these boards. I think a mate of mine, Mick, was helping me here once. Well, actually, it was before Jeffrey came over. Old American Iron come to visit me. We were getting the place, we were just doing some mowing, and it just cut out. So I bypassed something. I can't even remember what it was, and it went. So haven't had it going since. That one there got off my father-in-law too when he moved. I don't know what he was going to do with it, but that was his mower at his place up the road here. It's only a small machine, Australian-made machine. Briggs and Stratton in here. I've had it going. It hadn't been started for 10, 12 years, and it just started like he used it yesterday. So I have never cut with it, but I think it's just an exceptional condition machine. So that's probably where it'll stay too. I've got no plans for it at all. We'll venture outside. In amongst these Kenworths and Whites out here, I'll do a truck tour one day and do a walk around and talk about those. The New Holland tractor here isn't mine. Farm across the road there, my mate now leases. In 2001 we had big bushfires come through here in Sydney, so it started right out in the waterboard. Christmas morning we went up there and have lunch with me. Christmas morning we went and had breakfast with me uncle out there, and he lived opposite the waterboard, and then a puff of smoke out just a small puff of smoke out in the bush, and then having lunch down at my grandfather's here, and what would that been, about 4 or 5 hours, and next minute it's come about, I don't know, 12 kilometres or something, and it was at our back door, so it burnt right down and burnt out the place across the road and burnt their main tractors out. And with the insurance they bought this one, and he actually gave us a hand to build this shed, a financial hand, not the whole thing, but it certainly was a great help what he gave us, and with the idea that we'd house it for him. So, and they don't use it. We put most of the hours on it because that property is now leased by that mate of mine. So it's a New Holland T5060, really good machine. Very unstable though when using the bucket, but you do get to know how to. It scared me a few times, but you sort of get to learn how to use it and what its limits are. While we're going, this is my main mower I bought when I moved here. It's now got over 900 hours on it. John Deere Z 425, I think it is. Yep, I want to pay 6,000 plus GST about 12, 11 years ago. It's been good, but it does a lot of work. So it's you know, it's starting to use oil, and it's done a lot of bearings and belts, but we cut a lot with it, so I couldn't be more happy with it. But to replace this machine now, they've gone up about 3,000 or 4,000. So, and I wouldn't trade it because I'd keep it more for a bash mower than and just use the newer one for the lawns. But it's been a good thing. Coming across here, this is a Farmer A. I'm not going to say years or where they were built or anything, because some of them I'm not sure, so I'll just keep them all at that. Farmer A here, that was given to me when my grandfather died in his will. It was the only one he had, only Inter, I think. The rest he gave to me a few others actually, and we sold it in the auction. And at the time I wasn't, you know, as a young bloke, you weren't sure where you were and what your interests were, and I sold it because I saw more value in money than tractors. But there's 3 others I sold, and I know where one is. We won't sell it back. The other one went to Western Australia, I think. It was a 2-cylinder David Brown, it's a funny looking thing, but the value of it, I should never have sold it. And there was one other, I can't remember what it was. But so this is a Farmer A, was given to me in his will. He never, I think he bought it. Anyway, he wasn't young when he bought it. It was in the later years. It was never part of his business or anything. It was just something he bought for someone owed him money, even, I'm not sure. But we used to use it as a kid. I was learning to drive, and we'd plough. He used to plant a lot of vegetables in his later years, and we used it to do the garden. It runs beautiful. Next one is a Farmer H. I bought that at an auction. I went there with my uncle. I was extremely hungover and kept throwing my hand up, and realised at the end of it I didn't have any money to pay. I don't know, I'm 39 now. I was probably 23 or something when I bought it, but I've been drinking all night and then kept putting my hand up, and then had to ring Mum to pay for them. I did have money, but not on me, so anyway, I had to come home and sober up and then pay her back. Anyway, I bought 2 tractors. This is one of them. It runs great. I think it was tight. I think it was seized, but needed 3 tyres, something like that. But I always wanted one, and may have given 1,100 or something for it. It wasn't much, I don't think, for what I wanted anyway. Next one is a International, I think it's an OS6, OS meaning orchard because it's narrow. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's it. It does run. We got it going. It was seized when we got it. I drove the blue Kenworth to Mudgee actually to get this one with me mate. This one actually used me mate's, Shane's. Drove it to, drove the Kenworth to Mudgee and picked this one up. We pushed it on, it was seized. We got it going and driving around, and now it's seized again for some reason. So I don't know if she done a gasket or it got water in it. It's always been in the shed, so I don't know why, but since we've had it anyway. That's an International OS6. Caterpillar D2. Bought this one off the company I work for. Actually they got 2 of them. You get some of them earth moving mobs that they collect these old things too, and have a bit of a collection at their personal places or something. And he got a really good one, and then this one came with it. Now it was seized beyond repair. So when I say beyond repair, it needed liners, it needed pre-combustion chambers, it needed all sorts of work, and more than I was willing to put into it. So I pulled it apart. I think I sold the motor here not long. I did. I sold the whole motor because there was a bloke with a D4 that found me on YouTube. On Facebook, I think I advertised at Facebook Marketplace, and he wanted the pilot motor off it for a D4 he was doing. So I would never put it back together. These are like Tupperware containers over here. Everyone's got them at shows. They're not as rare as you probably think. So I put a Holden. It's a 3.3 litre or 202 cubic inch Australian made 6-cylinder there out of our Holdens. So that would have been out of a 71 to 75 model, I suppose, car or a ute, 1 tonner possibly. I will do if anyone wants a video of that, I'll do it anyway one day. I'll do a start up and how I fitted it in, but that is a gasoline or petrol engine driving that, what used to be a diesel tractor, so that works good. We've actually used it, pulled implements with it. Next one is a Lance Bulldog. belonged to the property across the road, sat there for 80 odd years in the one spot. I ended up freeing it up, getting it going. I found a company in Melbourne, I think it was at the time. I think I was about 24 when I got this one going. I'd done all the rings and bearings, and I found a mob that done gaskets and stuff. And when I say gaskets, the head gasket's only like a copper ring, just bent round to something the same radius, I'd imagine, then soldered. That's all the head gasket really is on it. It runs, just makes me sore thinking about starting it. You take the steering wheel out, you unclip the steering wheel there, then you shove her in the side there and rock her back and forth, and there's a bit more to it than that, but basically that's how you start it. So it's a real bastard of a thing. It's in its right spot. I reckon, I don't know, if you bought this trying to replace your horse, I think you'd end up putting this back in the stable and getting the horse back out, I would have thought. But maybe years ago in soft ground they might have been nice, but I can't imagine starting that each morning and going to work. Next one is, and I do like it, don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking it, but geez, what a bastard thing to drive. I'll do a start up on it one day, but I've never felt fit enough to actually do it. We pushed it in the shed. I think it's one of the only ones we did push in the shed. The rest drive. The next one is a David Brown 53C, petrol or gasoline. This one came from a bloke here, local bloke here in town that I did some work for. He didn't pay me. He had a TE20 that he slashed his, I don't know, he had a small acreage, probably 5 acres or something. He had a TE20, which is a Massey Ferguson petrol, grey Ferguson tractor. He wanted some work done, and he said, well, you can have the David Brown. So I got a tilt tray to go and get it and dropped it off, and I was 21 when I got this one, and it was seized beyond belief too, and I pulled the head off it with the copper head gasket and everything. I didn't even buy any parts. I just freed her all up and got the rust out, and heated the gasket back up, cleaned it up, and just waved the oxy or a torch or something over it to clean it up and swell it back up, and then bolted the head down, and it runs like a dream. The only thing I never liked about it, apart from these tyres, but that never affected what I did with it, but compared to any other tractor, the 3-point linkage is the wrong way. So when you're grading with it, I've had grader blades and that on it over the years, and you've got to get used to it. So forward is, if you're sitting in the seat and push that lever forward, it actually comes, the back of it comes up. With a normal Massey Ferguson or something, it'll go down, and when you're trying to trim or just even slash with it, you push it the wrong way and you just want that feel for it, it's very frustrating. Plus it's got a fairly vicious leak out of one of the lift arms at the back too, which would be easy to fix. It's easy to drive and use, it's easy to steer, it's easy, the clutch is nice, the gears are nice. It runs like a clock. I haven't had it going for years. Probably another episode there. I can't tell you too much more about that. I still see the bloke now. The kids, he's got his grandkids up there. My kids play soccer, so that's it. David Brown 53C. This is an Oliver 80. This one came from a local property as well. Now we saw it, I don't know, my mate saw it somewhere. Whether it was in the days we used to read Just Trucks, or you know, they used to put out magazines with this shit in it, or I think those days are gone, but whether it was online or anyway, we bought it. Took the, I don't even know how we loaded it, took the Kenworth up again, I think. Pushed it on, so this one does run, but not well. It's got a couple of broken head studs, so I reckon it's popping between cylinders, but had a magneto on it. I actually put them front tyres on it too. Those are off a Holden, and if you look closely, they wedge in like a spider. They've got wedges like a you know, like a spider wheel on a truck. So I cut the centre out of these Holden rims and they slid on. The centre was the same. I may have spun the hub and just lineaged it down, or the wheel, or run a flapper wheel around the inside of the rim, but they slid on quite nicely, and just wedged them on there and they fitted perfect because the front wheels are rusted right out. Next thing I did with it, had a magneto on it, and those of you who play these old things know that magnetos very expensive to do up. If you send them away, or you might be lucky enough, well, we can all work on them ourselves, but getting parts for them's another thing too. I can rebuild one fairly easily, but the parts that were broken in this particular one, and at the time when I did this, it was years ago, so parts weren't readily available. Like, you just sit on your lounge now and order it on eBay and they turn up. It wasn't that easy when we had this one. So I had a couple old 351s, a 302 and a 351 Cleveland here, and I pulled the distributor out of one of them. So that's a V8 distributor on a 4-cylinder tractor. Now, some of you may be able to work that out, but it does run, that works fine. And the reason it doesn't run properly is, I reckon, because of those broken head studs. But so you couldn't do this with a 6-cylinder or anything else like that. It's got to be evenly spaced. So if you just pick every second one up, that rotor button's still going round and in time. So it's running a wasted spark out of each one of those open ports there, but they're not grounding out anywhere. So I just made the drive up here. I didn't even have a lathe at the time, just using rulers and bits and pieces. Made that drive up, and it runs quite well. Just got a coil there. There's no charging system on it because we never use it. Just sit a 12-volt battery down there on that step and just hook the coil up. And only thing it hasn't got is a ballast resistor. Coil gets quite hot, but it did drive into there. Like, I'll start that up one day, and ignition's pretty simple stuff if you know how to get around it. So that is a V8 distributor. You see the empty ports on a 4-cylinder, so that does work if you ever stuck. These are some of the things. I think I've done an episode before. It didn't do real well on ways I've kept machines going, like that D2. It was probably going to scrap if I didn't put that engine in it. So just another way I've kept something going. Ford Cleveland distributor. What's this one? A WD Alice Chalmers. It's mate Josh's. Trying to think where this one come from. I think a few of these tractors come from down south there somewhere. There was a big online auction, or we may have bought a few one night when we were pissed, and then we had to go and get them. But anyway, I'm sure he went and got this one, and Massey Harris, I think, come from there too. So this one runs. We end up getting it going. I don't know that it was seized. I don't remember what we did to this one, but it's a prick to start. But if you tow it, it'll go real nice and easy. But it's been many years. Been parked there for a long time. Probably end up at his place there. He's building a new house. Probably take her up there and show her off in his garden or his shed or something. Tyre off the Farmall H I bought. I don't know why it's there. What was even wrong with that? I don't know. So a Fiat 513. I bought this one the morning I was hungover and bought that Farmall H. I bought this one. Now the reason I bought this, because it was my grandfather's and it was sold at that auction after he died. And I knew it was his because there's a few features on it that, just as a kid, you get to know these things, and there's a few features on it that made it stand out, and there's not many of these around that you do see. So this was part of their business many years ago. They had a sawmill business, and they used to supply all the mines out around here with pit props which hold the roofs up in the underground mines. A sawmill doing sawing timber and stuff like that, and they used to use this before they got the dozers. I think this is one of their first snigging tractors where they'd use it. I could be wrong, but I'm led to believe that that's what they did with it. And they'd fall the trees in the bush, and this would sneak them out to the road where they'd load them onto the trucks or the Ford or the Chev Blitzers, and then they'd take it out of the bush further and load it onto the Kenworths or the Transtars or whatever they had then, Accos. And so this used to work in the bush. That's what the bumper bar's for. She used to run into trees. You see a lot of the kingpins and that are welded on her because of the hard life she's had. It's exactly how it'll stay. I just like the look of it. It's a bit of it's a terrible thing to drive. It's hard to steer. It's got a noisy bearing in the final drive of the transmission, but the motor just runs like it was built yesterday. 24-volt system on this one. 2 batteries to start it. you know, I don't even know what I paid for it. I might have paid 600 or 700 for it or something. I don't even think I spent $2 on the day. By the time it probably was time you pay the buyer's premium and that at those auctions. That's that one, a Fiat. I think it's the only Fiat I've got. I'll do a start up of her one day. When you start it, you could roll it to that, I don't know, roll it to that line of grass there, and it'll start beautiful. And the reason the air cleaner is undone, I walked past the other day and noticed water dripping out of it, and it must be getting in through that bolt on top, because I'm just letting it drip out there. I'll have to cover that up, and you may think that, you know, a bloke's lazy or something for letting that happen, but there's that much stuff here. You know, you lose where you're at with it all. So that's a Fiat 513. Actually, today we're doing a bit of work to the Alice Chalmers HD 14. I didn't do a video on that. I was just doing some. Sometimes you just want to work and not show it. It's got the 671 Detroit in it. I had to adjust the hand clutch. A few other jobs on it too. Next tractor this would have been a farm tractor in its first life. This is a Chamberlain 6G crane. A lot of you that have been following me would have seen the will it start, where it sat for 40 plus years, the retrieval, the startup, and then the other episodes that haven't yet aired on it. So probably a bit of a spoiler alert if this episode comes out first to see where I'm up to with it. This one was part of a circus that used to travel around Australia here. So there's a local circus here where I was at, and they'd go all around Australia with these machines. So they'd tow trailers with it, and when they get there, they'd unload all the circus equipment like tents and everything with it. So, and the reason they chose Chamberlains here in Australia, because they do about 45 mile an hour. They've got a good road gear. You fit 2 people on them. If you want to know more about this tractor, go back and watch those episodes. And then once the circus collapsed, I think they just parked her up, and it sat there for 40 years or something, and I dragged it out and ended up getting it going, or it was going in the scrap bin the next day if I didn't do that. So this contraption on the back was for driving in the tent pegs. If you're interested in that one, there's a couple episodes before this, and there's probably going to be a couple after it. I know, well, when I say probably there is, but whether it's after or before, it depends on how I air all this stuff. The next one is, this is a Manitou. It's not a farm tractor, but I'm here. It's made by this mob here. Based off a New Holland or a Ford tractor, but obviously reversed. So I don't know why the forks are up. That's where Dad parked it. I saw this online because a mate of mine had a bigger one. Now, the reason we got hold of it was because there's not a lot of information about these, and I saw the bloke advertising it, and I got onto him to see if he had a service manual or a book on it, and he did. And you know, and anyway, we got that information off him, and long story short, we end up thinking about it and how cheap it would be. I think I don't even remember, might have been $2 or something, but they had it pulled apart. It's got a 3-cylinder Ford diesel in it. They had it pulled apart because I think they run it out of oil or something, but anyway, he was quoted $7,000 or something to put this engine together, and it was on a pallet, and he was just advertising the machine with no engine. And I went now to look at it, and I said, "Where's the engine?" He said, "It's here, but there's a bloke wanting to put it in a boat, like some sort of cruiser or something that needed a Ford diesel in it, had a Ford diesel, and something happened to it. He wanted parts off this one." I said, "Well, I could see what was wrong with it, and I wasn't saying too much." And he said the cranks all had it, and for what I could see, it was just bearing material stuck to the crank. It wasn't cut into it or anything. So I said, "Well, I'll take the machine if I can have the engine." Anyway, we did the deal, and I brought it back, and a mate of mine up the road, he put it in his lathe, and before I had one, and he just lineaged it back down to standard. So I didn't even, there's no oversize or undersize or nothing. And I think I got a set of rings, bearings and gaskets for probably $300 off eBay. And I put it all back together, and this poor bastard was quoted $7 grand. Then that was too much, so he went and paid 70 for a brand new forklift. So I don't know. Anyway, it's here. It's a great machine. It kept stopping when we were bringing the tractors out of next door, but I found a fuel blockage, and we sorted that out yesterday. So the next one is Sami Centauro. So this belongs to that property over there. This was bought directly after the fires, so they had a tractor to keep ploughing after the shed was burnt down over there. So the New Holland come later, after all the insurances and everything went through. So Sami Centauro, there's a will it start on this, and then there's a episode where I do a lot of engine work to it, plus make the blade tilt. So V4, air cooled, 4-wheel drive, low centre of gravity, very powerful machine for its size. Underslung blade. The motor's completely rooted in it, but it still works, still produces enough power to spin the tyres. You dig her in, she still spins up. Heaps of power, like for a tractor of its size. It's just, and you feel safe on it, low centre of gravity, as I said, everything's low on her. The motor breathes heavy, uses lots of oil, but until it's mine, which one day I'll end up with it, I'll buy it, or whatever the case is going to be, I'll slide them barrels off and have a look at it. But until then, it still runs fine. The episode I did recently on it, I put that tilt cylinder on it. I've done all that myself, just out of stuff laying around here. So it used to be manual tilt, but never used. You'd get out and loosen those nuts, and there was a wedge that grabbed it, and then there's a centre pin, so it tilts. But for those blokes who know much about tractors and blades, and you know, a tractor like this where the blade's rigid, it depends on where the back wheel goes, is where the corner of the blade goes. So now you can actually control it, control the angle of that blade, and it's not up to the tractor to do it for you. So I think this valve was $75 off eBay. I think that's all it costs. The rest of bloody air brake lines and reusables off a bloody wrecked Kenworth I got down the back, plus some of the hoses I replaced on the blue one when I put crimp lines on it. So these are rated more than the tractor puts out. That's fine there. I think that's all it costs. I just done it with all stuff I had laying around here. It's been very, very good. I've done that after the fire, so we can clean up after where the fires come through. Dad's done a lot of work here with it, just letting the grass back up now. See the pole she swept up there. They bought it from a local bloke actually, and the bloke that he was the local postman actually it come from, and then I got a comment not long ago about the same tractor, that it was brand new out the bush somewhere. I forget where it was now. Forgive me, mate, if you're watching this, but he did tell me that this exact tractor come from out there. So wherever that was, it wasn't near here. So how she ended up back here, I don't know, but looks like she was sold in Kangaroo Valley and then went out there. Then now it's back here. So we'll go for a walk down amongst all that other stuff. I'll start down the bottom and work my way up. This might be a long episode. There's this group here, and then there's another group down the back of farm equipment. Actually, there's two groups. All that stuff I got out of next door hasn't been brought up either. Anyway, for those tractor blokes, you'd be more than interested, I'd imagine. And please add in your comments any information about these that you might know that I don't. I certainly don't know everything. I'm only a younger bloke. I have grown up around this stuff, but never been a farmer. I just got interested in this equipment for what it does, and I just love farm tractors. So, especially old and new ones, I couldn't care less about. So any of you blokes want to add anything to any of this, or see any of these that you know, or want to educate me on any of it, please, I'm all ears. And if anyone in the local area or has got any cheap for sale that they don't want scrapped, might want to donate one like this bloke did. That was just fantastic. That's another episode coming up. A subscriber gave that to me. Me and my wife took my blue Kenworth down and picked that up. Spent about 6 hours in the truck all up, or 6.5 hours on the logbook or something, but wasn't that far away, but just pulled over by the RMS and everything, so it was a pretty big day. But a wonderful subscriber gave that to me, and I couldn't be more appreciative of it, but that's another story. So the next one, I just like saving all this stuff, and I've got all the steel to build a roof over these. There's a mate of mine going to help us. He's coming back off holidays soon, so I think once we get that stuff out of the shed up there, the Chamberlain and the Alice Chalmers, I'll probably start on this, because we've got everything here. Next one is an Oliver 1800. I bought it off the bloke next door. I don't know a lot about it. Where he got it, he did tell me. I think, well, I'm not even going to make it, because he watches. I'm not going to pretend I know, but he did tell me where he got it. He went to a wreckers to get some other parts and saw this, and so 1800 for you Oliver blokes. Should have a, correct me if I'm wrong, should have a Waukesha in it. You can see it's had a 6354 fitted to it. Now they did, the 1850s had the 6354s, meaning a Perkins, 354 cubic inch Perkins. This one's out of a truck, so silver. They had silver, yellow and pink, the Perkins come out in. This one's out of a truck. You can tell from the manifold, and as my dad pointed out, he drove them in Accos and that on timber. He said when they had a exhaust butterfly brake, engine brake on them, and he said that used to crack the manifolds. He said that's a giveaway. It was a truck engine, plus where the manifold runs. Most industrial engines have the upswept manifolds. And you can see where originally the air cleaner and exhaust stack used to come out through the bonnet. Now she's got that one on the side of her, but that'd be, if that's out of a truck, that's rated at 120 horsepower. And in a low geared old machine like this, that's, I don't know, she's going to have a fair go. I've got better tyres for it. You can see the aftermarket air cleaner on the side of it too, but I just thrive on shit like that. Which is, she's in fairly good condition. I drove it back here after we got all the water and everything out of it. It was only over there. I drove it home, this one. I actually got 5 things off this bloke, 3 tractors and 2 old trucks, which are junk basically, but I'll do an episode on them. So don't know a lot more about it. He used to use it, but as he said, being registered as farm and everything, hasn't got a ROPS canopy on it, and you're meant to have that. Plus he bought a new machine, new John Deere tractor, which are fairly cheap over here, John Deere. I don't know if the Indian made one, but what he's doing and what I'd ever do with it, you wouldn't hurt an Indian tractor anyway. So that's all I know about it. It does run nice. We didn't start it off the battery because the starter was going really slow on it. Now it's got small leads, plus it's got those friggin' terminals where you can isolate them with that plastic ring, and I can't stand those things. You don't get any amps through those at all. They're just absolute junk. So that's the Oliver 1800. There'll be more coming on her. Episode to follow with it. Next one is a Zeta, made in Czechoslovakia, 5911. I've got a 49, a 59, and the 69. I'll do a story on it in a minute. So this one here I bought for $500. For those of you who know the recent floods, when I say recent, probably 18 months ago, probably 2 years ago, I don't know. We had 3 major floods here in about 18 months or something. And one of them got this. This went right underwater. So there's an episode for those of you interested in these Czechoslovakian machines where I got it going. So I had to free the engine up, I had to free the injector pump up. It was a big episode. It was huge. It was, well, when I say huge episode, it was just the job itself. But I reckon there's $1,000 worth of tyres, probably more on it. Good steer tyres. Brand new back one this side. The other side's, you know, fine. now it starts and drives perfectly. I haven't got a use for it, but I will. I'd like a implement for it that I could. I don't have many implements. I'd like an implement for it where I could actually just get her out and do a bit with it to just keep it going. Just now that it had water in it, it's good to keep them going, because they do sweat inside when you're using them if it's still a bit laying about in there, and they rust again. 5911, next one's a 6911. It come from that property over there. Now this one was the only one we saved out of that shed when it was burning. My dad ran in with a chain, and we had an old Holden ute there at the time, which was just a farm ute, and I was driving it. I was 16 or something. I think I was, yeah. Anyway, I was driving the ute, and this was the only tractor we saved, so we ran in and pulled it out, tied it around the back of it or the front, whichever way it was in the shed, and we pulled it out and saved it. The history of this one I don't know, but Jesus, got some power. It's a very powerful machine for its size, and very crisp. Like, the engine runs just beautiful, and it's good to use. Like, there's a lot of sticks and things. You've got to have one in neutral and one in gear, but once you learn all that, it's quite a pleasant machine to use. She got hot enough to melt the pre-cleaner on it. You can see that's what that is. That's the plastic off the original Donison pre-cleaner that was on it. I don't think it got hurt anything else. It wrecked some beautiful tractors, that fire, but anyway, we saved this one, and she's a very powerful machine. It's got my 6-footer on it, and to be honest, I'd rather use it than the 165 that I paid $5 or something for. I'd rather drive the Zeta. It's easier, it's more comfortable. But the 165, which we'll get to next, needs a bit of work, and it'll be just as good. So the next one is a 165 Massey Ferguson I bought off my family. Originally it was my grandfather's. They used to use it, they used to grow turnips. I'm sure they used to use it to plough it all up, and anyway, it was my grandfather's, and when my auntie and uncle bought the place, they bought the tractor too and had it for 98, I don't know, 25 years or something. Then I bought it when they moved, so it's still in the family, still mine. I don't use it. I used it to drag those tractors through the fence, toe start the Oliver, but I want to do some work to it. It's hard to steer. It's the remotes aren't working real well, and it's a multi-power thing. And when you slash them with it, it locks in gear. If you back up and the slasher hits a tree or something, you can't get it back out of gear. It's a bit of a bastard of a thing. Something's wrong with it. But anyway, I haven't looked at it yet. Next one. Well, I think I'll hit this one here. This is a MF. We'll get closer. It's a Massey Ferguson, but it's not a British made one like the good ones are. Made in France. Still got a Perkins in it, but nothing else resembles a Massey Ferguson except for that unique seat they've got. Nothing else does. So it's a 20, but they're about a 35 size basically, if not a tad bigger. So bought this one off my cousin. He wanted a tractor, and I knew a bloke at work that had one for sale, and took him there, and he ended up buying it, but just to slash his paddock. He's got some acreage, and I think he saw a zero steer ride on for, I don't know, whatever he paid for it, and then lost interest in the tractor. So next port of call was Steve, because he knows I wouldn't say no, and then next minute I took the old 4000 up with the float, and we pushed her on and brought it back down here, and actually drove it into the shed here. We was in the main shed up there, and I got it going and brought it down here. It's all there. It was a going tractor. He's a very he's a perfectionist, my cousin, and he was going to do it up real nice, and he did. He's done some beautiful wiring, and the work he's done to us is just fantastic. So we've got boxes of parts for it. I'll end up putting it back together. He's done a great job on everything he's done to it so far. So that's a good tractor. Beautiful tyres. Problem with these parts are hard to get. Not for the Perkins, but the rest of it. Very hard to get. I've got another one, that's the reason I know. I haven't looked for anything for this, and they're rare too, but I happen to have two of them. I'll show you the other one in a minute. That's that one. I'm sure they're made from France or Spain. France, I think. This one here is a B250. I may have said 414 in some episodes, but it's a 250. So bought this off a mate of mine. No, I didn't. Tell a lie. Those of you who have seen the video, I did the Joey box in the AR 160, 180. I put a Joey box in an old Inter, 160 I think. That's how I work with mates. I'd rather do a job and then swap it. So he swapped me this old International tractor, and it had this slasher on it, which is what I wanted, 4-foot slasher. So he bought it off another bloke we know, and it does run, but the problem is, I think what's wrong with it, after speaking to an injector pump bloke here, it only runs on 3 cylinders, but it's still shooting diesel out the 4th pipe, which means it's a 4-cylinder. And what happens with these, he reckons they were known for wearing lobes off the camshaft in the bottom of it's an inline injector pump on these ones. If they wear the lobe out, it puts it out of time, so it'll run nice, and when you tighten the injector line up on the 4th one, because it's still squirting, it just smokes out the exhaust pipe badly. So what that means, it's either injecting after top dead or something like that, and it's or directly on top dead or something, and it's not igniting, and it's just basically blowing it back out the exhaust, and I'd say the manifold's heating it up. That's where the smoke's coming from, because it doesn't take the miss out of it, it just smokes. But it's a beautiful little tractor. Now I'd like to get an injector pump done up here, you're basically forking out $1,500 just after you pull the thing off there. So I don't know, I'd like it. It does drive, but just sounds shit. I'd like to be able to fix it. I'd rather buy an old wreck and get the pump off it, or someone may know someone who's got an inline pump for one of these. I'll be more than interested, but for that sort of money, I'd rather let it sit there. It's still in the collection regardless. Next one, Ford's an E27N. I don't know where this one come from. It may have come with the what one was up there, the Alice Chalmers WD and the Massey Harris I've got. This is Josh's too. Don't know the history of it. It's a good tractor. It's hard to start, but if you tow it, it starts fine. So, but they're useless. I reckon. We've had it in a tractor pull, and they haven't got low gears. They only got like a 3-speed or something, a 4-speed or whatever they are, but they haven't got low and high like a Massey Ferguson or your typical tractor. So we took it to a tractor pull, and it barely took the slack out of the chain, and not just speaking for this one, there's another one there too, a different spec one, but they're just hopeless. That one there with the blade pushes all right, but this one, I don't know. For a farming tractor, I thought it would have done a lot better than that. Maybe for what they were used for, they might have been great. Next one here, it's a funny looking one. The bonnet's over there off it. You can see down there's the bonnet off it. Now this is a Chamberlain 9G. It's a reverse one though. I think they were called an R1250 or something like that. They were reverse. So they made them front end loaders. They made cranes. So basically a reverse 9G tractor. It's got the 270 Perkins in it. The reason the bonnet's off it, because it done a radiator, and the original radiator had a hole. You can see down there's a drive shaft off the harmonic balancer going through to a hydraulic pump. The original one had the tank cut and soldered and was a lot lower, but this one, rather than do that, he's just left the bonnet off, and which is a good call, because the radiator mobs around here charge like a wounded bull. So eventually I'll either lift the bonnet up or find a smaller radiator, but you spent good money on that, and it does cool it nicely, so I'll probably leave it at that. A bit of a history behind this. I won't tell you exactly how it happened because I wasn't around at the time, but I will include a photo in this. It's been in the family a long time. Part of that timber business I was telling you about with the Fiat. There's a photo of it unloading a Oh, it was an F800 or F8000 or something, old single drive Ford truck with a jinker on it, unloading logs. Only had a beach umbrella on at the time, and some of the workers he had working for him, my grandfather and uncle, had all this cab and everything built on it. The fuel tank, the cab was built on there. It was all changed. It was changed to hydraulic steering, changed from manual brakes to a couple of 30-30s, which are service and emergency, service and park if you wish. Air tank there. Because they used to drive it, again, they had a good high travel gear, these Chamberlains, like I said about the 6G, where they drove around with the circus, so they could drive this between mills or wherever they went, the bush, mills. Had a good road speed. That's why they done that. And now it's still in the family. Went from me grandfather to me uncle to me auntie, and now mum's got it, so it's in our collection. It just reminds of, although I can still see my grandfather driving it around with his hat on, just picking everything up. And it's ugly without that bonnet. It's ugly with it, to be honest. But anyway, it's part of our history. Next one. It's just going to be a long episode. Next one is a 554, I think this one is. International. Anyway, this one we went to a truck show. It was a mate of mine got it. Jody, a mate of mine. And I went to a truck show many years ago, and I had a 3070 Acco at the time. I wasn't driving it, but it was my truck, and it was a rigid truck with just a tray on it, and it was a long wheelbase one. It had the 903 in it with a 15 speed. And we called in on the way back, just a bit of a via this place to pick this up on the way back from the truck show. So anyway, it sat here and sat here and sat here. He said, well, you can have that because you picked it up. So here it sits. It does run, but it's blown a glow plug out. So it's got a bolt jammed in the hole, but it runs fine. He's got all the tin work there. Needs the blade pulling off and thrown in the scrap bin, which I'd like to do. It'll make it look a lot better. Next one, Farmel H, that's Josh's as well. Runs fine. Don't know the history of it. It was under some bloke's house for many, many years, and he got it, and I don't know where he got it, Marketplace or something. Anyway, it was basically given to him and what he paid for it, and I was very jealous of him. It was very, very cheap. Real standard looking thing. There's no additional stuff on it, no starter motor, but just very tidy. He drove this to my wedding down the back. We didn't do anything to it, just put petrol in it, make sure it was getting to the carburetor, and we towed it with the Chamberlain there. That's the one I drove to my wedding. My cousin Shane was sitting on it, my mate Shane was sitting up on this one, and just had the throttle open, we're driving around, we made sure it had oil in it, and just having a beer each, and basically talking to each other. He was sitting on this, I was sitting on that, talking to him out the back window, and anyway, she just started going and cleared herself up, so we didn't do nothing to the magneto, never even had the back off it. We just thought we'd try, because the wedding was the next day, and otherwise we would have just started something else up for him. But basically it run like a clock, and when I got it going to bring it back up a couple of days after the wedding, I rolled it from the length of the tractor there, and it went itself, and I drove it back up here. So that'll end up back up at his place. Well, it now hasn't been there yet, it comes straight here. That'll go to his place, I'd imagine, and sit in his shed or his garden up there, and so you can admire her. Next one, Chamberlain C670. This came from the same place the 5911 Zeta did, went under the floods too. 6-cylinder Perkins in it, 306 cube. Don't know a lot about the history of it. They parked it up because it was locked in gear, but you know, I think I gave him $1,000 for it or something. But it's in exceptional condition, I think. It's got a bit of a bearing noise in it, because it all went underwater, right? So the final drives, the rear end, the main transmission, the engine was stuck. Starter motor was rotted out because it was full of water. But anyway, I got her all going, and there is videos of us picking these up if anyone's interested. Looks like the birds have found her. I drove this to my wedding and looked a bit better then, but There is a video on this one. There's not a video on every one of these tractors. So if you see any that you want to see more of, those plates are off there because they're full of water. I had to free that one wheel up, but there is a video of me doing that to this tractor. Chamberlain C670, Australian made. Next one's a Renault. Yes, a Renault. A Renault, or however you want to say it. Could be different in other countries. Sure, this was bought, if it wasn't brand new, it was close to it by a mate of ours that actually, if you want to go back and watch, there's a video of us picking it up. We got this, a 46 jail bar Ford and all those side valve V8s. Took a mate of mine's truck and we picked them up. There's a video of us getting it going, and his father actually got it. I don't know if it was new, but it was close to it, and that's how long it was in that family, and those blokes are getting old, and he was moving, so we went and got it. Was originally from this area, it went to Mudgee, now it's back in this area, so runs like a clock. Not a real nice thing to use, but I think it's a collector's item, certainly valuable in my collection. Side valve engine, I don't know if I suppose it's a Renault engine. Not sure. Side valve, 4-cylinder. So not a lot I can say. I don't know a lot about them. I actually got the original factory books and everything with it, so certainly a collector's item. I think they weren't very popular in Australia. Now, they came out the same time as the grey Fergusons did. But these were something like, it was something ridiculous. He said, no, they might have been in today's, like back then, money, $50 or something. He was talking quid at the time, but it was probably $50 more for this one than the grey Fergie, and they never sold, so that's why the Fergusons were more popular and these didn't go anywhere. There was very little money, but at the time no one probably had money, so that's why they never sold. That's why you don't see too many of them. That's our excavator. Here's the other. This is a 30, this one, but it's the same make as that other one now. You can see there, Massey Ferguson, made in France by Massey Ferguson, Paris. The other one was the same. Apart from the seat, the Perkins, there's not a lot more the same as a Fergie. Transmission's completely different. Front end, they've got a chassis, which Fergusons don't do. They use a cast sump on the Perkins. Maybe the same rim there, but I'm not sure. That one there, many years ago, a bloke dropped it off to have some work done to it. He never come back and got it, and me and my uncle did the work to it, and still spoke to the bloke. He just said, I'll get it one day, and anyway, we ended up buying it off him, and then later years I bought it off my uncle, so it's now mine. I use it to rake all the driveway, and it's a really easy tractor to use, so I use it to rake all my driveway and stuff like that. I don't want to work it too hard, because as I said with the other one, they're hard to get parts for. Someone's been opening gates with it by the look of it, but you know, things like that don't bother me. If it happened before I had it, it doesn't worry me too much. I did miss one over here, so we'll go back through it. Got a bit carried away. This one's a 35 Massey Ferguson, 3-cylinder Perkins. It's the best one they made. They made 4-cylinder with petrol and a 4-cylinder standard diesel. Those standard diesels were okay, but they were hard to start and they leaked like a sieve. We had one across the road there actually, and it was saved, but it was sold not long after. This one here was our family's on the other side, not where the Chamberlains and stuff come from. It was on the other side. Excuse me, I'll just put the seat away here before she goes off. This was on my dad's side, this one. The other was on my mum's side, but this one was, I don't know when they bought it. It was their main tractor up there. They had 80 acres up the road here. And it actually started itself up one night. It was only my grandmother there at the time. She was in bed and the stopper was out just like it is now. She was in gear, the battery still connected, and she wound, however it did it wound itself into the shed. hit the shed wall, but the starter kept turning, and of course electric things get hot when they drop volts and they work hard, and she caught a light. You can see with all the bonnet and everything. I done a lot of work to it. I painted it, and I was still at school then. I wasn't even 21 like the rest of the tractors. This is the first one I had. We bought it off the family, and well, my dad did, and I painted her all, and I didn't fix any leaks though. I just painted it. I cleaned it all. It was all nice and everything, but she's since leaked, and that diesel, you can see, stained it all. And I never got to fixing the bonnet, because at the time I didn't have any panel beating skills, and they're still very little now, the ones I do have. So anyway, it's a good little tractor. It's easy to use. There's a video coming up of me doing the clutch. I actually split it in half, and the thing is, without having a shed here, even though it's in a bell housing, even though it's all sealed up, it's still rusted that clutch to bits. Just like any of you seen the one on the 165, it done exactly the same thing. So I think it's just condensation gets in there and they sweat, and that bare metal, as you know, clutches are all bare metal. They're not painted. The friction area is always polished. It's always bare, and they'll rust straight up. So I've done the clutch in it. It's not properly adjusted. You got to be fairly onto it to adjust these two-stage clutches properly. Now it works fine, but it's just, I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to adjusting things. It's not exactly how I'd like it, but we've used it heaps, and it's, you know, it's more than enough. Next one is a Fordson E27N. Went to a big auction out at Gilgandra once, and I kept throwing my hand up because I like the look of this thing. Now, there's many other tractors, I think. Might give a few hundred for it, but then it cost us even money to get home. That's before I had any trucks or anything, and before any of that, so it runs fine. Fairly unique with that underslung blade and those steel wheels. Bit of a bastard to start, but anyway, it's a good thing to have. Cost us a bit of money actually, and getting the magneto done up too. I think that was fairly expensive. Anyway, it's hard to use, hard to steer, hard to drive. It pushes good for something that doesn't pull real well. It pushes good, which is strange. It's just something to sit there really. It needs to be in a shed. The last one in this group is a Massey Ferguson 35 industrial, so the same as the red one I just showed you, is a quarter light. This is on my mum's side again, so this is my grandfather's on that side. 3-cylinder Perkins. Basically the same back end, different front axle, different tin work, heavy shroud on the front. So these were built for backhoes, front end loaders. This originally did have a front end loader on it. It was all pulled off to use as a tractor and never put back on. I think I put it back on when I was at school, and there was no valves or anything. We were just using an up and down valve we made, me and my mate. It did work, but that's it come back off for whatever reason. So I don't even know where all that went. Bought it off my uncle when he was selling. He was downsizing. Just before I bought the 165, I bought that. I always had a soft spot for this one when I was a kid. Used to have bigger wheels on it off of David Brown, but these smaller ones were put back on because I used to use this to pull something through the, they had an autoclave or some bloody thing for treating timber, or it used to pull the logs through it or whatever they did, but they had bigger tyres for traction on it, and now these are the original ones off it, they're back on it. It's always had that post hole digger on it since I know. I had a slasher on it many years ago, just stuffing around, and then put that back on, but I think the clutch is gone, and then it does drive, but it's hard to get into gear. In the PTO, you nearly got to stand on the lever. You've got to shut it right down, basically to 0 revs, click it in, then try and catch the throttle or start it in gear, or and the power steering's not working. My uncle did spend a lot of money on the front cylinders, so it's not those. I don't know if it's the pump or the actuator in the actual steering box itself. It really needs, and I had one, sold it for scrap, and another one where I got the Zeta, I'm going to show you down the back, there was another one too, and I didn't save it, and I could have taken the front axle out in the steering box and just made another one of those 35s out of it, and you couldn't ask for a better tractor, but I missed all that. Anyway, something might come up. So that's that one. Runs beautiful. It's got the hot dog muffler on it. You can see the heavy front wheels on it. to the pressed steel ones on the other Fergie. We'll go down the back and look at the rest. I'm going to stay on the golf cart for this one because the rain's coming down fairly decent. Next one's an International A554. Bought off the bloke next door. It was something he was using, but the power takeoff clutch in the back, and they got like a wet clutch pack in them, and started slipping. He said it was driving fine, and then you'd hit a patch of long grass and it just slipped. And they are designed for that to a certain extent, but not how easy it was doing it. And he bought it, he was telling me, because the engine was redone, but he said he was told the truth had been stretched a fair bit, he believes, because he said it starts fine if you give it half a tin of air a start. So he's had the head offer, and he said the balls are like mirrors. So anyway, I don't know. I bought 2 others and he gave it to me, so she's more than welcome here. I might do something with it one day. It's about $2 for a kit, but I don't know if I'd go to that. I'd probably just run the hone through it and a set of rings, and wouldn't even change the bearings. I'd never work it. I'd just something to run. But she might run good enough just to poke about here and have in the collection. I've got all the PDO, and that's out of it in boxes in the shed, so we just dragged it through that gate there, and that's where she still is. We'll have to put her in the lineup, but it's got a 30-inch tyre on the back that needs a tube, so one pumps up, one doesn't. We brought it through with a forklift, but you'll see that episode coming. Next one's an A514. Just move back here, she's raining a bit. Complete with the John Deere rear wheels and rear mudguards, or fenders, however you want to say. Was a good goer, but the clutch wouldn't release. Now he thinks the grub screws may have come out of the shaft that connect the fork, or something like that. So it was running fine, but we went to do a start-up on it when we brought it through, and it's seized, it's locked tight. So we didn't, I mean, when I say that, we didn't try too hard to free it up either, because the day was getting on. So we just towed it through here with the old 165 back up there. So it's good to have in the collection. I've actually got another one of these down the back. No, it's a 564 or something, but I can get the guards and wheels off it, because the one I'm going to show you next will never go again. No, well, it may, I don't know. Depends on if I go full-time YouTube, and there'd be some great content if I ever did that, because I'd spend a lot more time on each one. But anyway, you can see me crowbar there I was looking for earlier, still holding the blade up. But that's another one to the collection. Austin truck there, which came with it, he threw that in, and a J3 Bedford. Please, if anyone wants those Austin and Bedford trucks, they'll probably see the scrap bin, so if anyone wants them, please tell me. Next one here is a Massey Harris 44K, I think. Yeah, it's a 44K. Got this one that night we pissed on eBay. I used to have a pretty decent man cave or bar set up, or however blokes call them, in my old garage before I moved up here, and that's how long we've had it. So probably 23 or something, 24 when we got these ones. Josh actually took me Kenworth, the blue Kenworth, to get this one. It was seized, so this came from the same place as his E27N and the WD Alice. It was seized up. Valves are all completely rooted. I've done a lot of engine work, and when I say a lot of engine work, I didn't replace any parts. I just done a lot of cleaning, I had the head right off it. I sent it away to a bloke and he wasn't interested, so I went and picked it back up, and I actually bought a valve grinding seat cutting tool off eBay. I think it came from India, and it was only 3 days or something. I couldn't believe it. And it was dropped off, and I didn't even know it was come from India. I just saw the price of it and bought it, and then it said that's where it come from, and it was here in 3 or 4 days. I couldn't believe it. So I actually just cut the seats and lapped the valves, and when I say lap the valves, I put some heavy paste on them and clamped the drill on the top side of the valve, and just held some weight down on you know, just pulling back on the drill basically, and ground them in, and and give her some compression, and then she works. So I think I've done a bit of carb. I've got a carby kit still for it, and the carby was full of water, so it's fairly pitted, but the Venturi's what worries me in it. It's pitted bad, but it was part of my wedding. It wasn't driven in the wedding party, but it was part of the alcohol display. Now, I was driving it back from the wedding, but she ran out of petrol. It's the only reason it's still here. So we just sit a battery in there, and it's got no charging system on it. But as I said, previous episodes, alternators and generators at my place are only to keep the fan belt tight, unless it's on a tractor we use every day or a late model thing. These old ones, I never bother about it because the batteries are in and out of them that much. It's not a problem. So especially these old ones, you're driving for 10 minutes, so there's no charging system required. So that basically hot wire for your coil, you just push it into the battery terminal and give the starter a rub, and away she goes. It runs good. I just got to put that carby kit, and it's on the bench up there marked to go in it. But this is where she stopped, and I was going on my honeymoon the next day, and as a bloke knows, it's sort of, you know, I love old tractors, but also like things that come on honeymoon, so that it wasn't priority to get her back up there when I knew that was coming. But it is now. It's all over, and the honeymoon's over, and all that exciting stuff's over, so I'm sort of more interested in the tractors again. Okay, these are the last, I thought there was 3, there's actually 4. These are the last 4 I've got to show you that are in basically the wreck side of things, but I've made a deal on 2 other Chamberlains. One's actually the family's, come from where that reverse one did. So when I say the family's still on mum's side, it was never sold, so still part of the family, and I'm the only one sort of interested in tractors, I suppose. So I'm going to go and pick it up. I've got to put a tyre on it and bring it back. It's a 9G. And another back to front one, just like that loader I was telling you about again. So it's a back to front one, but with a crane attachment on it, it's a slewing crane. So I'll probably take my wife or mate Mick or something, we'll go and pick it up. It's only about an hour and 20 minutes north or something. So I've made the deal. The bloke took it off eBay because I said I'll pay you cash. So I spoke to him on the phone. He said no, it's reserved. So next couple of weeks I'll go and get it, and that'll be another episode of roaring up the freeway with the 871 roaring, and another retrieval episode. So I'm looking forward to that. Next one is a T20 grey Fergie. Now these are like freckles, everyone's got one. You go to shows here, they're all polished, they've got flags on them and polished carryalls, and I'm not against these things in any way, but I sort of like to have stuff other people haven't too, and I'm not against those blokes that do have them. It's, some people love them, some people don't. The reason some people don't is weren't an overly, you talk to a lot of blokes, now I wasn't around when they were being used, but this is just basically going off other people's preference, but weren't a real handy machine for much at all. And a lot of you are going to argue in the comments, but I don't care, it's just what I've heard. And some blokes love them again, some blokes don't, but no footrest. I could nearly pick the front of it up myself, and they killed a lot of blokes, these things, rolling over backwards, as did a lot of other tractors. My grandfather was actually killed on a D4 cat snigging logs from both sides of my family are in the timber, and he I think my uncle found him, Dad's brother found him, he was laying underneath the L4. I don't know how long he was there, but it killed him. D4 cat. And as I said, the reason I'm saying that is a lot of, not just these that rolled over and killed blokes, but they were that, I think they had more power than weight, to be honest, so the front of them just come up and over. If you had a slasher or something on, they wouldn't do it, but if you were just pulling with a chain or a rope or something like that, over they go. And single stage clutch, no footrest. I don't know why they were so popular, I don't know. A lot of blokes like them for grass, and these implements came with it. I give them 500 or 600, whatever I give, and I could see the value in that. I mean, it's a wreck at the moment, but I'll tell you something about it in a minute. I can't see how it'd pull that any further than about that far in the ground. unless it was already fluffed up and that. It'd probably pull that single, but I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Only kind ones, and I'm not against, as I said, I'm not against them in any way, but when you're interested in machines like this, you tend to listen to a lot of other blokes' stories about things. I will be doing a first start of this one, possibly, but the starter motor was pinched off it. Get one of them's about, I don't know, I've seen them between $160 and $300, but what do you buy a starter for the thing and have a look at it? But I did come up with a bit of a plan, and the reason I said I'd get back to this and why I thought 600 was okay for the price. One, the weight of it. Two, it is a fairly straight tractor. Like, if you look past the wheels, it's a fairly, I've got the owner's manual, I've got the service manual, or the bits and pieces for it. But the reason I said 600 was okay because there's an episode coming up on that 6G Chamberlain crane up there, you'll see, but for those of you who have watched that before, I'll just drop that and show you. You will see that I'm after some rims. Now, the episode's aired where I started it. The next episode on that crane will be wheels and tyres. Okay, so the back ones on those were pressed steel rims like this, and the front ones on the Chamberlain are the heavy cast wheels, just as a ballast basically. So these are a narrower tyre, but 28 inch. Chamberlain runs a 18.4/28 or a 16.9/28 tyre. These are still 28 but a lot narrower. So what I decided to do was, I couldn't get hold of a Chamberlain wheel, right? No one had them unless I had to cut the centre out and weld into something else. So what I decided to do, the whole wheel wasn't stuffed, just one edge of it, one bead of it. The tyre was protecting half of it and the rest was sitting in the dirt. That's where she rotted on both sides. So these are available on eBay. I wouldn't say cheap, but not overly expensive either. So I thought I'd destroy this one because you can see it's already destroyed. Couldn't be used anyway, so I thought I'd cut this one up. So what I did was cut that out because it's 28 inch and it's got the same curve. So cut that out of this rim, cut it out of the Chamberlain rim, and stitched it on. Sounds fairly bodgy, but when you run 16 pound in a tyre, there's no hope in hell that that's going to let go. What I wanted to do was possibly, because I've got a set of tyres, right? I think I need one front tyre. I've got one. They're only about that wide. They're like, you'd probably get one from Blackman Bicycles. I've got one front tyre and I've got two back tyres. So what I was going to do is each month, rather than spend a heap on something that's probably going to stay under this tree when it's going anyway, or I'll get rid of it, but I haven't got one of these, so I'll keep it. Just get one a month, one every second month or something, one rim, just leave in the boxes until I've got the complete set. Then we'll do an episode on tyres and rims on this one, and then it'd be more of an incentive to buy a starter for it. So, and then when it's going, I don't know, I'll put it up there with the rest, I suppose. But I don't like things just not being able to move, and it's not seized, it's not in bad condition at all. So I think it's worth that, and I think she's come this far in life. But when I went and paid the bloke and his wife for it, she said she was only a young girl. She's a woman. I don't know how old she is. She said she was only mid-60s, I suppose now. She was still at school when it was parked in the shed and the starter motor was taken off it. So it hasn't run in, you do the math, how long? So I think that'd be an interesting video, and she's, you know, she's I think it still holds its place. I think it's worth being here. Tell me your thoughts. A lot of you blokes love these things, and I'm not against them. As I said, it's what people listen to, the stories, what people have to say, and I have no idea. I have driven them. I think it'll be. I think, in my opinion, I think it'd be quite a good little thing, possibly with a 4-foot grader blade or a you know, a rake or something for you tidy up a driveway or something. It'd be all right. But I don't really use the petrol powered stuff here because you can tip 20 litres in this and work it for an hour, or hour and a half, 2 hours possibly. If you tip 20 litres in the 35, and you're not going to fuel it up again till October or something. You know, you're not talking hours, you're talking months. That's the sort of difference I'm getting at here. And again, not against them, but that's not against Fergies in any way. That's just any old petrol tractor. That's for blokes that still use them, and you know. Anyway, I'll move on. I'll just get my. I'm actually having a 4X today because that's all in the fridge, and I haven't been drinking much because of the COVID. But it's cold. It's okay. I don't love it, but. Next one is, I don't think there's any up there. It's all in the Reckon line. Anyone want a Kenworth cab? I just want the air cleaner and a few brackets off it. Oop. Just delete that, G. If anyone wants a Kenworth cab and it's a cut off, no engine, I just want the air cleaner and a few cab brackets. The rest is for free if you want it. It was for free for me, so I don't believe in charging money for the rest of it. I'm not like that. Next is a Zeta 4911. So these three here I saved from that same mob from the circus. So the same company, but different areas. So they had a line park, they had a line safari, had the circus. These three come from there. This one here I got. I didn't pay nothing for any of them. I was actually giving them. I maintain the lawn mowers, tractors, bobcats, whatever they got up there. I just volunteer to do all that. The bigger jobs I get paid, but the smaller ones I get given shit like this. I just donate my time because it's all off at the moment it's not for profit. So up there, 4911. So I've got the full set. I've got the 49, 59, the 69 up there. Well. Not the full set, but sounds like it. I did a first start on this. I did a retrieval episode, then I did a first start on it. It runs like a clock, believe it or not. It used to just maintain the park, go around with a trailer, clean up the bins, picking up the bins and bits and pieces around the line park. Possibly towed a trailer with people around the park to show like a safari tour sort of thing. Was parked up when the park closed, I believe, 1986 or something. It was parked, and I did get it going. Yes, it spun over. I thought it'd be seized, but no, it wasn't. I did pinch something off it for the 5911. I think it was a delivery valve off one of the ejector lines there. I think it was anyway. Will I ever get it going? I don't know. I mean, it goes, but the rest of it, do you spend money on tyres and brakes? These have got hydraulic brakes. Don't think it runs. The brakes are a dry band around a drum, which you can see through there. They've been exposed to the weather. Will that work? I don't know. They've got wheel cylinders in there, means taking that extension housing off, which I'm not overly keen on, to end up with not a real... Well, it's a useful machine, it's not the right word, but I don't need another tractor that size, if you know what I mean. For that amount of work, I've already got the 59, it's not much bigger, so if I need a tractor that big, I'll use it. But it's a tractor, so I took it. I just love tractors, so needs a back tyre there. I don't think I've got one that size. The front ones are only off an old Land Cruiser or something by the look of it. It runs fine. Didn't try the clutch, didn't put the thing in gear, we just ran it. So there is an episode on that one. Will it start after being parked in 1986? Again, made in Czechoslovakia. Brilliant motor. It's a 3-cylinder. Exactly the same all the way through they were. Things got bigger, added more cylinders. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. These actually, I didn't point out on the other two, had a front suspension system on the front axle. It did oscillate as well as each wheel. So if you oscillate, it'll put a bit of weight on the back. She started to lift a bit, that it'd still hold weight on the ground with those wheels. Completely rooted, but I'd never fix that. I couldn't care less as long as it's steered. That's fine. Lack of fat in there, I guess. Next one, I don't know what they used to use this for. I have no idea. David Brown 1200, big old girl. It's seized. So far I've robbed the starter off it and one 3-point linkage. I've got the old Land Cruiser bull bar on her. I don't know what they use this for. I will ask the owner one day just so I can, if I ever do a story on it, I've got that information. Now one of these tractors, they both come from the same area. One of them ended up, when they feed the lions, all the waste of the lions don't eat, they basically got a pit up there they throw into. Now this was years ago. One of them rolled into that pit with the carcasses in it, and you can imagine the slop and the filth in there after the rain and the guts and all the shit. One of them ended up in there, I think it was the David Brown, I think. And it went all through the transmission and basically submerged it in that shit. And I don't know that it ever went again, but that's a big old girl. I'd love to get that going, but is it worth the effort? Look at it. You're talking tyres, you're talking... When I see tyres rooted on things like this, apart from that Chamberlain being, the Crane Chamberlain being an exception for its history, you start to wonder, because if you replace that tyre, then you've got to get rid of it. And to do that in Australia, that's big money. Just to get rid of that one tyre, unless you're one of them complete parasites that throw them on the side of the road, which I will never ever do, which I refuse to do. You're looking at dollars, whether you just store them here, but one day when you move, they've still got to go. So anyway, that's just one thing that does turn you off about a few things that I have seen for sale, and bits and pieces. But when they're given to you, yes, I'll go and get it. Can't tell you any more about it because I don't know. I really don't know. It does roll, all the wheels spin because we pushed it there. Next one's a 564. Don't know the history of it, what they used it for. Unloading circus equipment around the park, I don't know. I think it's seized. It's got 30-inch tyres on it, which I will probably have to put on that 554, or one of them anyway. Because the inside wall split for being flat for so long. But what worries me about this one, when I walk near it, is, and now's no exception, that bead, and it's still pumped up, and it only have, I don't know, 8 pound in it probably. Look, if it's flat on the bottom anyway, sort of half flat. That whole bead's rusted off. I was going to take a rim over and put on that tractor, but I'd rather fix it than stuff around. This one's already together. What I'd probably do with this one, cut the loader frame all off it, throw it all in the bin, get rid of all the hydraulics, simplify the rest of it, and then look at it again. I think it'd make it more appealing. At least put a tyre on the front, get the thing rolling. Again, you can get parts of these off Bearco on the internet, fairly easy, just like the TE20. You get a rim for it. Tinworks shit on it, on the front anyway, which they all are. So, yeah, I don't know. I think I'd like to get an oxy set here for a day and cut a bit of this shit up and just simplify it. Get rid of the front off it, throw it in the scrap bin. There's a bit of other stuff up around here I'd like to cut up too. So that is the end of the tractor talk. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff here, but they're all my farm tractors. Okay, everyone, thanks for watching. If you still are watching, some of you will be, some would have clicked out in the first 5 minutes like they do, but it doesn't matter. Sorry it's been late between episodes. Kids are at home. I've got 3 kids, and my wife does the editing and looking after them and trying to edit. The editing's, a lot of you don't see what goes into a video. Editing's very hard. I see what she does, and it's twice as long as actually filming it, if not more. So plus we're doing it all off a laptop and it keeps crashing. Haven't got the money to invest in a bigger, I don't know how computers work. So sorry it's been so long between episodes. Thank you to Patreon members. I've been putting stuff up for them online, just stuff I've been doing on the side, other stuff I've been doing for the channel, off the channel, just stuff I've been doing. People that buy merchandise, thank you. Thank you for all the likes on the Facebook page, on the Instagram page, all those nice comments on there too. That's just fantastic. So plenty of episodes coming up. I'm going to put a lot of effort into the channel this year, and I've still have been since I've been putting a lot of effort into the channel off, even though there's been no episodes, there's been a lot recorded, so we've done a lot, retrieved all that stuff from next door, went and got the Albion. I've done a lot of work to the Chamberlain, to the Alice Chalmers. That wasn't on the channel, but I've done a lot, and there's a lot going to happen down here. All this stuff's got to be moved for something we're doing here. So thanks to everyone for watching, and hopefully you still are watching. We'll see you in the next one.